Okay, today is Wednesday, May 4th, 2011, and the time is 5:40 p.m., and this is the regular meeting of the Brownsville Navigation District. Reverend, you want to lead us in the invocation?
Dear Father in heaven, we begin this meeting as we do your meeting by honoring your name and inviting your presence. We thank you for the gift of this port. We thank you for the stewardship of this port that we enjoyed as a community for 75 years. And as we look forward to the celebration of those 75 years, Father, would you continue to bless us and guide us to continue to advance the commerce, trade, and industry in this region. In Jesus' name.
Amen. You join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Texas flag.
I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Item number 2 is a public audience. No one has signed up to speak. So item 3, receive director's report. Item A, port director's report, Marine Highway Roundtable.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, a couple of things, if you will take one of these and pass these down. As you know, we hosted the first roundtable discussion in the Gulf on the Marine Highway program. We had representatives from other Gulf ports as well as representatives from various transportation departments in the states around the Gulf course. We had a good participation. What you have is, and I think this is also in your report, is a copy of the registration list, those who attended. And I've also attached a copy of the presentation that was made by MARAD, which is the overview of the overall maritime, the Marine Highway program. The discussion was good, got a lot of good feedback afterwards. Some of the issues that came out of that discussion that will be continued dialogue kind of center in the area of if there's going to be an effort to promote a waterway investment, to promote the use of the marine highways, that there should be some program in terms of incentive program for those operators. Freight origin and destination data, especially related with NAFTA-related trade. There's still a problem with securing good, reliable data on both sides of the river. Incentives for truckers who convert over-the-road cargo to marine highway. That was discussed with potential incentives. The harbor maintenance tax, which you all are familiar with and we've talked about, eliminate the harbor maintenance tax for the marine highway users. That there needs to be a greater awareness of the program and some efforts to be able to promote the successes and the benefits of the program. And then also incentives to carriers who initiate or provide marine highway service. In other words, include all of the stakeholders that would make the marine highway successful. And then most importantly is to learn from past failures. So those were some of the issues. It appears that what came out of this working dialogue is continued discussion. Looks like that the next meeting of the Gulf Coast will be probably sometime in July, and this time will be in probably Gulfport. So we'll continue to be very active in that discussion. And I also want to express appreciation to the commission members for going and attending. I think that's important when we let all of the stakeholders know how serious we take this. So I want to express our appreciation for those of you that were in attendance. If there are no questions about the Marine Highway, I'd just like to briefly move on to another legislative update. Here you are. Take one and pass it down. I've been providing you once a month with little legislative alerts and things that we're involved in both at the state and federal level. This is our legislative alert number 3. And some of this is just to kind of brief you on what has happened since the last discussion. On Senate Bill 815 and the House Bill 699, if you recall, this is the one we called the Port Bill that kind of cleaned up some of the language about the ports. It established the Port Infrastructure Fund, or the mechanism for it, also established the PAC. That committee, the Senate heard the bill, passed on it, so did the full House. The House version of the bill was heard on the Senate on the 26th. It was placed on local and consent calendar. It's going to go to the floor for full vote. So assuming nothing happens with it, once that is done, it'll go for the governor for signature. Senate Bill 816, also by Senator Lucio, and the companion bill, House Bill 3560 by Representative Lucio, was related to the Board of Trade Committee. There's been some activity on that bill. Out of the Senate, the bill has already been heard. It's been sent to the Transportation Committee at the House. It was voted out of the Transportation Committee on the 18th. It's already been placed on the local and consent calendar for the House. All it is pending there is a full House vote on it, and once that is done, assuming there are no changes, then it would go for the governor for signature. So that's another one. That's the one that inserts having to include ports in the discussion about transportation issues affecting freight mobility on the border. And also, it also creates a mechanism to ensure that a representative of the port is on the advisory committee for all reporting that is done to the governor's office, to the leadership of the state, as well as to the Transportation Commission. The other bill that we've been kind of following more than not is the one that has to do with the commercial landing fees. And those are the two fiscal notes that are in Senate Bill 1584 and House Bill 3418. On the Senate side, the Finance Committee did consider a substitute bill. And then that substitute bill, all language of the commercial landing fees was taken out, which is a good thing. Good. The day prior to that, on the 18th of April, the House Appropriations Committee also had a substitute bill. The assumption is, because these were two identical bills and companion bills, that the language in the House bill was also stripped out as it relates to commercial landing fees. We've not been able to see or get a copy of the substitute bill, but all indications are that it was stripped out. So we're still following that. Both of those are good things, and that's something that the port industry and we took a position on as not wanting to favor. And then lastly, this is just something new that kind of came up. You may recall this was something that our consultant Randy brought up at our meeting last week at the Marine Highway about the changes affecting the Texas Department of Transportation. Senate Bill 1420 makes some changes in some of the programs that TxDOT is currently responsible for. It's going to shift that over to the Department of Motor Vehicles. Well, in that change is going to be the Overweight Corridor program. Now, we've received assurances that that should have no effect on what we're doing. It should be seamless to the user, but nonetheless, it bears mention for us to kind of keep an eye on, see what happens with that. And that's what I have for you on the state side. And on the federal side, again, just go back and continue to stay on top of the initiatives for the harbor maintenance tax. Texas Port Association is joining an effort to encourage our governor to support the harbor maintenance tax effort. Two bills at the federal level, the Senate bill introduced by Levin and the House bill by Bustani, that essentially would require the use of the harbor maintenance tax for its intended purpose, and that is to use to dredge and maintain our channels. And so there is an effort to gain greater push for that, and so TPA is going to be sending a letter to our governor to support, and signed a letter for all the governors, sending it to the federal leadership on the appropriations side to make that change. And copies of that information, as well as the Levin bill and the Bustani bill, are included in your package. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report, and I'd be happy to respond to any questions.
Okay, just to clarify this for people that don't understand about harbor maintenance tax and all this, what's happened is, correct me if I'm wrong, or if I'm not accurate someplace here, but basically we've been collecting a harbor maintenance tax from all cargo coming in and out of our port and turning it over to the federal government, and then that was to be used to maintain the channels and the harbors of the United States ports. But the money has been spent, has been allocated to go other places, and has never been used to maintain the channels and the harbors, and that's the reason that we're now asking that be, from henceforward, be used that way.
Correct, with one exception. There's enough money collected on an annual basis to fund all of the necessary maintenance of the channels. All the money collected, about half of it is what goes to the Corps to do that. So there's still a shortfall. Yes. And so with this bill, it's not that it's never been used for its intended purpose, but it was supposed to be collected and used for that.
Exclusively.
Right. And so what this legislation would do would be mandating that from this point forward, that the money collected be used for its intended purpose. So no port of it would be diverted for other
So
uses.
that all of the money
That's
would go to
correct.
its intended
That's
purpose. Okay, good. That's why, I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Okay, that concludes my report, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Item B, director's reports. Anyone have any questions on the director's reports?
Questions on this time around?
Questions?
No, I don't have any questions on that. Very well.
Item number 4, consideration and action on the following consent agenda items. A, approval of the minutes of the regular board meeting of April 20th, 2011. Item B, approval to authorize payments over $25,000. Item 1, Danny Ibarra Construction, first invoice for roof repairs on shed 14 in the amount of $64,633.50.
Everything's going all right with the roof repairs?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
With one, you do have a change order later on your agenda in regards to that.
Okay, well, you want me to make a...
Yeah, and I
I'll make
entertain a motion.
So moved.
I'll second that, Mr.
Been
Chairman.
moved and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Item number 5, update on the 2011 Brownsville Biggest Loser Challenge by Dr. Rose Gowan.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Cowan is not going to be able to be with us again for the second time.
Okay.
She's in Austin taking care of business up there, and she asked that if we can do it the third time, she'll be
Sure. Okay, can I have a motion to table that item?
next time.
So moved.
Second that?
Moved and second, all in favor?
Okay, item number 6, presentation by Mr. Steve Pettis regarding Superstorm of 2015.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, is a request by Mr. Pettis, and he is here this evening to do a presentation on what is termed the Superstorm 2015. What it is, it's a presentation on transportation issues that affect over-the-road freight, mobility, and various binational initiatives. So without further ado, I will present Mr. Pettis to you. I think you
Are you gonna need the
Mr. Pettis.
overhead?
Yes, he sure is.
So we're going to be giving you a presentation.
And it will be brief.
It'll be brief, and we'll be able to show you what's going on both sides of the border. As you know, we represent Brownsville Matamoros United under the International Committee.
Please go to the mic there so you can...
Start again, please.
As you know, we represent the Brownsville Matamoros United initiative under the Brownsville Chamber of Commerce. I'm here under that status. And obviously, we've been here before in a few occasions. So this is basically moving forward to be aware of the year 2015 and some other things that are happening that are changing our global patterns. And that's what it's the presentation about. I'll initiate as soon as we get the video displayed. I'll wait.
They'll get it back there.
Oh, they do?
Yeah.
Oh, you guys are prepared. You got two.
Yeah.
I thought there was only one.
It used to be, but
Yes.
Joe knew.
Yeah, we got it.
Can I ask you a question? What is Brownsville Matamoros United?
As you know, that logo is from BEDC, and we were authorized to use it for our initiative to work traffic and cargo between Matamoros and Brownsville. So we use this logo to promote. We have been doing this for 2 years. We went last year.
Yeah, that's fine. I just want to know what
okay.
it was. Thank you.
So it is part of the BEDC, but we're not funded by the BEDC. Okay, so let me move forward. As you know, our slogan, we continue to push the fastest port of entry to Mexico. But basically today I'm here to give you awareness of the trade superstorm that is brewing. Wanted to, ask some questions. Are we prepared for this type of cargo traffic coming our way? Do we have the infrastructure? Can we actually attract this traffic? Is it a job generator? Those are good questions. As you know, before we've introduced the Supervia and obviously the Superport. But I wanted to, let you know what's been going on for the last 20 years or 15 years. As you know here, this is as much as data we have from the federal government, but you can see that we've been pretty much the same growth, very little. While other markets, or another graph over here, shows that in 1997 it started to grow, and the other markets continue to grow. Now, if you compress it it shows that our Hidalgo County, markets have grown almost 136%, while we've grown 13%. And obviously, that's what we want to bring, awareness to, because the logistics industry, or what we call the trade and transportation industry, has growth. Even here, Hidalgo in red, in 2008 and 2009, had 45,000 jobs that were direct result of the industry. But what's brewing around us? Well, container volume. According to Houston, they've already declared that they're going to take away 45% away from Long Beach. And we tend to believe that, since they declared this type of graphs showing that each year they're going to grow around 10% in cargo volumes. This is another representation of their, well, according to them, they're now the center of the universe in cargo trade. But I wanted to bring attention also to the Committee of Highway 69 that puts us on the map. Here's another map that shows us, again, in the map, in reference to coast-to-coast connections. Here's another map that shows the Superport people putting us on the map. Remember, all this stuff is people from Houston and Dallas putting us on the map, and people from Monterrey and Mexico City putting us on the map. And wanted to be aware that obviously they're talking about containers, which obviously the freight shuttle network is part of that. Even the Superport people here, again, put us on the map. Now, obviously, this map that we have here, last year, Matamoros did a presentation in front of the BDC, obviously marketing this route as the Ruta 69. So there's development also happening on the Mexican side. Now, we know the population concentrates on the East Coast. Here's another representation of that. This is the Supervia that we've basically presented before, which is the first intermodal highway. That means you can bring containers here and not worry about rail, and by law, sometimes you cannot bring certain commodities unless you bring it by rail. So that's the difference here. Here's another Supervia route. This one's actually very interesting. This is from Pro Mexico people, which is from Mexico City. Again, they put us on the map as an alternative to Laredo, which again goes back to Houston due to the containers services. But here, when you show that the growth of the industry of the whole United States and the third-party logistics industry, it always grows, 14.5. Every year it grows, and the year 2005, they hit the $100 billion marker. So we bring it back to the attention of, is it a job growth? I mean, can we really, look into it? Well, we believe so, because trade and transportation back in 2001, we were the biggest employer. We're no longer the biggest employer right now, but if we would have grown just a moderate 5%, we would have continued our leadership. 10% is just too much, and even at 15%, which should be our growth. That should be our growth, 15%. We shouldn't forget of our competition, because here we have the trade and transportation in Hidalgo, which is our #1 sector on the Hidalgo County, but our sector is still below here. We do believe we can bring these jobs in this industry. We know that legislation was signed back in 2009 that brings the overweight corridor to us, and we're very happy about that, because that allows us to bring the double trucks. We've touched this issue before, the long combination vehicles. Austin and the Texas DOT people are working legislation to bring that into action. Why? Because of the Panama Canal extension. So we're hoping that becomes law. And if it becomes law, we're the first ones to benefit, because we have the heavyweight corridor, and while Houston is betting on getting 45% through the Panama Canal, we can bet on the Supervia. Does that make sense? And if we bet on the Supervia, we can also attract other ports of entry, Lázaro Cárdenas, Manzanillo, and bring all containers to us. Why? Because we'll be cheaper. Why we're cheaper? Because it's always cheaper to do double containers, double rail, double truck. And of course, don't forget competition. Here's what I found on the web, that Corpus Christi and Laredo is also working on this. They are working on a truck-only, double truck corridor. And if they manage to do this before we actually do it, then obviously we have to concentrate on, that worriness as well. But we have been actually, brought an article that in the Chinese market, Panama Canal has been pushing the super via as well. And that's basically my awareness to you today.
Any questions of Mr. Pettis?
Thank you, Steve. That's very informative.
Thank you, Steve.
Item number 7, consider an action to acknowledge receipt of the audit of the district's financial statement for fiscal year ending December 31st, 2010.
Well, let's at least do the intro. This distinguished young man at the podium is a representative of the independent accounting firm of Long & Chilton. And they are our outside auditors. The financial report was completed, and what you have before you is the final report for presentation. And Mr. Barrera will do the presentation, and after that, it is an action item to accept it, but simply with that, let me just turn it over to Mr. Barrera, Mr. Carlos Barrera.
Thank you, Eddie, and by the way, you need to go see a doctor for your eyes. Members of the board, before you is the audit, and this is for the formal adoption. This is as of December 31st, and so just going to go over two basic financial statements. The financials were discussed at audit committee on Monday, rather in detail, probably about an hour and a half, so they were vetted pretty well. So I'll just give you the brief summary of what's going on. Or what had happened in the year. Page 7 of the report and page 8 is our auditor's opinion, and as been the case for many, many years, we have opined on the financial statements and have rendered an unqualified or clean opinion for the year, which is the highest you can, the best you can get, I guess, is the best way to describe it. The first part of the financial statements that I explained to the audit committee, and it starts on page 9, is the management discussion and analysis. So I'm not going to go through that, but that's your interpretation of what happened during the year, and it is based on the financial statements, and it is done in such a way that a lay person can read it without having to have a whole lot of accounting knowledge and background. But because I have knowledge and background, I'm going to go ahead and spare you the easy part and get you to the hard part. But I'm going to go ahead and just turn to page 20 and 21. We're just going to go through 4 pages on this financial statement. Statement 20, or page 20, is the actual statement of net assets for the port as of the end of the year. And you'll see there's 3 columns: the primary, the component unit, which is the BRG, and the total for both. And I'm just going to concentrate on the primary. I'll give you some numbers or comparative numbers from the prior year. You notice on your assets, you have total current assets of $15.6 million. Majority of that is obviously cash at $12.4. Last year, that total current assets was a little over $18 million, so there has been a reduction of cash. And I'll explain what happened during the year when I give you the summarization of everything. And cash went down from about 14.6 to 12. As far as the total assets, on page 21, you'll see you have total assets of $141,656,000, which includes all your fixed assets, your property, plant, equipment, etc. And last year was about $142.5. So when you look at one year to the next, there's been a reduction in assets of the port. And of course, you have depreciation, amortization, and all that helped out with that, but about $908,000. So keep that number in the back of your mind for a little bit. On the liability side, though, there's also been a reduction, significant. And of course, you have total current liabilities that were unrestricted, and there you see $8.3 million. The biggest, obviously, were you have accounts payable of 1.6, and deferred lease rentals of 1.7, and deferred property tax revenue of about 3.2. Last year, that number was about 9.3. So again, that's about $1 million reduction in payables on the current side for the unrestricted. As far as the non-current district obligations, you see $28.1 million. Last year it was $31 million. And the majority of that is obviously revenue bonds. You have 10.4, 17 on the GO bonds, and capital leases of 266. All of those three have been reduced from the prior year. And then when you look at the total liabilities on the bottom, $43,951,000. Last year, that's $48,390,000. So there's been a reduction of $4.4 million in total debt of the port, which is a good thing. On the next page is your, in effect, your net assets, your fund balances. And if you look at just one area, which is the unrestricted, that's where everybody wants to look at and say, okay, what do we have free and clear? And it's $5.4 million. Last year was $5.5 million. It's actually a little less. It's about $180,000 less than last year. So you managed to keep your fund balances pretty much in check, but you were able to reduce your liability significantly. And so how did you do that? So change, turning the page, is your statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in fund assets, which in effect is your income statement for the year. Your operating revenues decreased about $750,000 to $11,030,000. Last year was $11,007,000, the majority of which this year, again, vessel services of 4.5, port system of 4.1, et cetera. Your depreciation, your other operating expenses were 8.4. Those were a little up from the prior year of 8.0. So you had net income from operations before depreciation of 2.5, and it was 3.7 last year. And then, of course, you have amortization, depreciation, as you would normally have. So you have technically a loss from operations when you take those two items into account of about $816,000. Last year was actually a positive number, 503. So there's a $1.3 million reversal of the income. And then your non-operating income, all of those went down as well. Most of them did. For example, the interest income went from 577 to 411. Well, you have less cash, you have less interest income. But all the rest of them did so as well. So the total there, when you look at total other operating income and expense, was $3.5 million. Last year was 4.2. It was about $700,000 less. So as a result, you had income before contributions and extraordinary items, $2.7 million, 4.7 last year. It's 1.9 million change from one year to the next. And then the capital contributions, that's the amount coming from BRG of 772. And that's pretty consistent in least the last 2 years. So in effect, you had a net increase in net assets of 3.5 million, or about 1.9 million less than last year's 5.4. So what all this basically is saying is, giving you a bunch of numbers, and they're all flying through your head and say, okay, what does all this mean? I said, well, what it means is that you've taken $3.5 million of your income, you've taken $1 million of your assets, and you've reduced your liabilities $4 million. That's essentially what you did. And so we were having a discussion at the office, and they said, well, what do you normally do during a time of economic situations like we have right now, where the uncertainty and you're not sure about where things are coming? Well, a normal person, what they're going to do is they're going to take their income and manage it carefully, and they're going to reduce their debt as quickly as possible. That's what you did. And you managed to do that by keeping your fund balance pretty much the same as it was in the prior year. So that's the summary I was trying to give you. So that's the first part of the financial statements. Second part of the financial statements, I'm not going to go through the footnotes, I'm not going to go through cash flows, but the second part is the single audit section. Because you have federal and or state grants, we're obliged to give you an A-133 audit, which means it's a compliance audit on federal and state programs. In this case, there were error funds involved, but suffice to say that we have no findings to give you. Everything was fine, everything was clean, and as a result, that's good. And there's a report in there also about the findings we had last year, and those were cleared up. So that is my summary of the report. And if you have any questions, I'd be more than glad to answer. There's also a management letter in here too, but there were two findings in there, two basically comments that were just advisory, and we talked about that at
Basically, I'd just like to put this in layman's terms, we are in sound financial shape, and the books are in order, and we've managed our money well.
Yes, sir.
That's what I wanted to know. Thank you. I mean, I've read the report, and I said it on the audit due, but I just wanted to officially hear that from you. Thank you.
Nothing we should be concerned about going into, well, we're already into 2011 by 5 months, but anything we should be,
The same things you always worry about.
well, besides that, everything else is, everything's looking good. Okay. Tito, I know you were on the audit committee as well.
Yeah. Everything looked fine. It's
Okay.
fine.
Great.
Except for that thing that we need to apply for, right? The management diploma or the...
Oh, we talked again
Yeah.
about the CAFR, the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, which is a standard to be met by the governmental, I guess, financial officers or accounting group. Yeah, GFOA. And we talked about this last year, and I know this is something to remain as a goal, and we actually going to be doing some work on it this summer to try to go from where we are now to a little bit closer to getting everything ready to the point where hopefully in the coming year we can prepare this statement in such a way that we submit it for recognition for outstanding financial performance or accountability under the GFOA standard for the comprehensive annual financial. We've never done that, and so that kind of remains a goal of wanting to do.
There's one thing that I may have to, just want to also touch base. GASB 54 is, and I'm not sure how well it'll apply to the enterprise fund, but the net assets, I mean the fund balance area, it's going to change a little bit, at least for most of the ones we do, which is on government, but I think it's going to change on the enterprise funds as well, which means that instead of just seeing unrestricted, there's going to be some other classifications. And those classifications and how those things are going to be done, or how they're going to be classified, is going to rest upon this board adopting the classification changes. And that has to be done before end of this year, December 31st, 11. So I guess I will be visiting with Debbie, because once we know how you all want to do certain things, or what we suggest you need to do, then it's going to have to be brought before the board, and you all will have to probably approve that. So that will be, the change will be effective by the end of this fiscal year. If not, you won't get your GFOA certification.
And we'd meet with the audit committee first and then bring it to the full board for consideration. Any other questions of our auditor or of Debbie? Comments?
No, sir.
Okay. This is an action item, so I do need a motion.
Motion, Mr. Chairman.
A motion for second. Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Item number 8, consider an action on approval to incorporate a health reimbursement arrangement, HRA, medical plan option to current health insurance benefits under Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Mr. Chairman, Board Commissioners, Mr. Campiano, Ms. Emar, good evening. At our last commission meeting, we hosted a workshop to introduce to you the health reimbursement account, the HRA plan, also known as a high deductible plan, which is would be an addition to our current health insurance plan for employees. The HRA offers our employees to be more selective of the medical care that they receive, and in addition, it offers the district a possible opportunity to cap our monthly cost of health insurance. And we did conduct an employee survey internally, and the majority of the employees that responded to our survey decided that they would like to see an alternate plan as far as health insurance goes. So the support seems to be there. The recommendation this evening is that it is approved so that we can go ahead and introduce and add this alternate plan to our current health insurance.
Based on your discussion with the employees, how many employees do you think will take advantage of this?
Well, it seems that there might be a good number. According to the survey, we had 60 responses out of the 93 employees that we have, and the majority seem to respond favorably for the option.
I think there's going to be a lot of more serious review by the employees. Now, keep in mind that this is an option that our current provider, Blue Cross Blue Shield, is giving us.
Right.
So we would have, it's a voluntary option. the goal here is to begin to kind of look at how we transition away potentially by the escalating costs of the traditional insurance policies. You know, as we get into this and as we do more, it becomes more complicated. You know, whether I think we had more than half, a good more than half respondents in those surveys said that they would like to consider the option. The question is, will they consider the option? Now, the questions have been asked, the Blue Cross Blue Shield, I think there's still going to be more of that. There's still an enrollment period. And what this will do, I think, that it will also put us in a position that, you know, we're going to have to go out for proposals for insurance this coming year, for next year, is that we will have options on how we want to have the providers respond, you know, whether it's going to be a menu of services. But the whole goal is to try to cap our costs, that every year we're here, you know, it's going up 10%, 15%, 20%, 25%. So this would be a good step to begin to kind of transition and allow employees to be more involved in really the selection of their health care, with the whole intent of being able to manage our costs and the individual employee costs as well.
Manny, if an employee opts into this new plan and then decides this isn't for them, can they opt out, or are they stuck with it till?
At least till the end of
The end of the calendar year. So to some degree, because it's not a whole year, employees really kind of have a 6-month window to look at this and see if this is something we want to do. And so, you know, that might be even better from the standpoint of let's take a look at it. But it isn't like, okay, you know, King's X, I didn't mean it a month later. You make the decision, you're in.
It's strictly voluntary.
It is voluntary.
Correct. And if it is approved tonight, we are looking at an implementation date of June 1st.
Yeah.
So it's quickly approaching.
I've got a question. Out of the 93 employees that we have, 63 responded favorably, but that's not a commitment that they made. They just responded that they would be in favor of doing this.
Correct.
Playing the devil's advocate, what would happen if, you know, let's say not even half of these people at the last minute decide not to jump on this health reimbursement program?
Nothing happens.
Nothing.
It's an option. Blue Cross Blue Shield is bringing this option to us as a group plan.
Okay.
So even if 3 people take it, they didn't say there had to be a minimum number of participants. They simply said, here is an option that we will offer. It's on a voluntary basis. However, here are the deals that have to be done in order to enact this option. So out of the, say we got 63 responded, more than half said they would like to consider having an option. That doesn't mean that all of those employees are going to sign up for the option. You may have half of that half, but they're interested in looking at it, learning more about it. And quite candidly, for some employees, this is a great deal because they don't use the health insurance program. So that health reimbursement arrangement would allow them to begin to book money available for future health needs. And so for those employees that do not you know, seek medical attention, or, you know, we had quite a few employees that we asked them, how many of you have even used the insurance program? And a lot of them raised their hand, I haven't even touched it. So there are some good options that are available to the employee to begin to be more involved in managing their own health care costs. But the whole goal is for all as an organization is to hold those costs down.
So really, there's no set amount of employees that could join.
No.
1, 2, or 5, 10 employees could join.
No. Blue Cross
if
Blue
it's
Shield didn't say they had to have a
Okay.
minimum amount. So that's why we figure, okay, let's offer the option, let's see how it's received, let's see how it works. Instead of having it for a whole 12-month period, we get a chance to see how it works in a 6-month period. But the benefits are the same as if you did it for a year. That's the other thing. And those that have had costs incurred already since last October to the present, that goes towards helping meeting your deductible, your co-insurance premiums too. So there's good deals in here. If you look at it correctly, it may be very acceptable to some of our employees.
Now, Mr. Campirano, this is till the end of this year, right?
That's correct.
And we're at $600 and something thousand a year. What it costs.
$660 is what our costs are.
Would it be feasible? We don't know how it's going to turn out next year, if it's going to go up, which more likely it might.
Yeah.
Where do we draw a line? Or I don't know if maybe we're too small to self-insure our employees with some kind of bigger insurance for like major accidents. I don't know if that's something that we might have to start looking at, because if this gets to $1 million, You know, not, like you said, not everybody gets sick, but not everybody gets hurted, and then it's like we're throwing the money
Yeah,
away.
all you need is 2 or 3 high losses. What we're looking, and with our consultant, in fact, you know, you've heard us talk about self-insurance or maybe excess coverage for those big claims is one thing that we've started to look at. The other thing is to have a kind of a menu of a cost share program where, you know, okay, here's what the district's willing to pay. If you want anything better, then you have to pay for it. So we're going to be looking at multiple options, but the whole goal for us is not to get to the $1 million from a district expense standpoint. Now, we do think there are some things that are happening in our current year that should help us when we go to the market to bid it next year, because some of the large claims that we had from prior years we're not going to have in this year. That doesn't mean anything. You know, the best we can hope for, I think, realistically, is that you don't have an increase. But that's all going to be based on your experience factor from the prior years or what pending claims you may have in the pipeline. And we don't know. But we will have a far greater menu of options to look at that might be employee choices, and that you know, we can begin to kind of address whether it's looking at a self-insurance program for excess losses, or again looking at that cost share program or things of that nature. But you know, a year ago we weren't even talking about self-insurance. Now we're talking about self-insurance.
Any other questions of Mandy or Eddie?
No, very well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, this is an action item, so I'm going to need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Item number 9, consideration and action on assignments, negotiations, easements, subleases, and contracts in general. Item 1, Elite Packaging Service LLC sublease.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Elite Packaging Services LLC under contract 3599 is requesting to sublease to Logistica U.S. Terminal LLC. This is for the purpose of transferring plastic resin from rail cars into bags or trailer tank trucks. And also, the staff is requesting the board's consent to the sublease, and also requesting to amend the contract to change the name from Bulk Packaging to the new name, or from Bulk Packaging to Elite Packaging Services LLC, which documents had not been prepared by oversight. So.
Okay. Are we ready for a motion?
Well,
I was going to say that'd be subject to.
Yeah, the consent to the sublease, and I've looked at the sublease, and it's fine. Mr. Wood, who represents the seller here, told me they're closing on Friday, and that the sublease would be signed exactly the way they sent it to us. So I don't have any problem with you approving the sublease. With regard to this name change, you actually approved it in 2009, and for reasons nobody can determine, that amendment never got signed. But you did approve it.
so that'll get cleaned up.
So that's just a house cleaning thing.
Okay.
Okay.
I do make a motion, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
I'll second the motion.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Item number 10, consideration and action to approve change order number 1 to the shed number 14 roof repair project with Danny Ibarra Construction Company, and to authorize funding of same from the Ports Capital Project Fund.
One real quick correction. It's not from the Ports Capital Projects Fund. It's from the Ports Operating Fund. You know, we fund our capital out of our cash flow. We haven't, unless we come to you and say, hey, can we go to that Doc 16 fund? It should be Ports Operating Fund.
Mr. Chairman, Port Commissioners, on this change order, basically, once the contractor got going with the work, some additional damage was discovered or deterioration under the roof, and in fact, from the time that I prepared the tabulation that you have on your packets to now, we discovered some additional deterioration on the south side that increases the quantities of item number 2 and number 3 from 13 squares to 21 squares. And that results in a change, slight increase of the total from $17,850 increase
to 21,050 increase. And I have, I didn't run extra copies, but basically all it is 32 additional $100 from what you see on your calculation to what is actually needed. And what we're asking, we've already checked it with legal counsel, and we'd like to have you approve the total increase of $21,050, which would cover that. And that's part of the, all of these things we received unit prices for the purpose of, controlling what would be done there. And Garza and I both physically inspected the locations, and we do need to do this additional work. So we would like.
Can you explain what you explained to Daniel and I as to why this increase is occurring?
Okay. Well, when the contractor started doing the repairs and they started removing the surface portion of the roof, on some of the areas they discovered areas that we hadn't seen from below. Because see, the way we develop the quantities it's in the contract is we walked the roof and we inspected it from below and we estimated the quantities. And to an extent it was an estimate without going through a detailed tear down of the shed to find out exactly, to the ultimate number what it is that we needed to repair. And in fact, in discussions with Mr. Garza, what we did is we tried to give ourselves enough room to allow for any possible increases that we wouldn't expect. So here, in this particular case, for this particular contract, we're increasing the contract about 18% with these additions. So of course the 3,000 is only a 3% increase out of the 134,000 that we would have before. It would be 137,000.
So we'll be out of pocket $3,000
approximately,
because the insurance companies don't pay the difference.
Yeah, that's the other point.
What's the ceiling on the insurance company? What's
134. Well, it's in the agenda item. Let me.
134, 375.
No. It's a little bit more than that. It's 100. Let me give it to you right now.
That's the amount that would have been with just the additional. But
what the insurance company had offered was $134,386.51. Our previous version of this change order was $134,375, which is $11 less than that limit.
Well,
any figure above that limit would be something that we would have to pay.
So $3,189 is out of our out-of-pocket expense.
Who are we covered by?
Excuse me?
TML.
This is under TWIA.
Oh, this is under TWIA.
Okay. And this is for plywood that's rotten and...
No, well, there's several levels to the roof, of course. The most inferior level is the corrugated steel.
Yes.
And then above that, there's, in the old roof, there was a lightweight concrete that was poured there. And then from there was the rest of the layers that went up to the, what do you call the top one, Mr. Garza?
The modified bitumen.
Yeah, the modified bitumen on the surface, which is what's right at the very top. And there's 2 layers there in between.
Let me ask you a question. The insurance company sent an adjuster out here to look at the roof. They said, oh, it's going to cost this much. We're obviously over that because when they start peeling it away, they discovered more damage. Now we're talking $3,000, and that's a minimum amount of money. But what if we discover it's $50,000? I mean, do we have a fallback to the insurance company on this? I mean, and I would even try to pursue the $3,000. I mean,
do we have a way to do a supplemental claim?
You should have the right to file a supplemental claim. Just as if your car's in a crash and when they peel a bumper off, they find something else, then you file a supplemental claim.
That's the word I was looking for. Thank you.
Well, that's exactly the mechanism I guess.
But who's going to file that on behalf of the port? Is it? Okay. So we're going to make sure we file that supplemental claim.
Right, we had discussed this earlier.
Oh, okay.
I hadn't been aware it was part of the same claim. We discussed this was different coverage. So
well, that's something we need to go over in detail to make sure that it would be something that would be part of the claim. So
Well, it's-
On the record, I won't say anything.
Well, we'd like you to, I think what John, I think, is trying to say is with the commissioner, we'd like to have you file it. Now, whether the
Absolutely.
insurance company pays it or not is not,
Right, right.
you know, that's a different story, but we'd like to have it filed and then request it. Because if we never request it, we're never going to get paid or have any
We
opportunity
don't have
to
any
pay.
consideration for payment.
Yeah.
And we're fortunate enough that that was the only thing that you found, because those warehouses are, and Mr. Garza knows, are very old, so we were.
Well, the more you
Didn't get
peel
any
off,
more.
the more you peel off, the more you find.
Exactly.
And
It's at the very edge of the roof, so when you look at it from the bottom,
You can't.
you can't really tell, but then you
Pick it
have a
apart.
nailer, and so even though you may see
It's-
a little bit of tear where and there, when you start peeling off the roofing material, that's when you can actually see that it's really perforated.
the other option was, you know, do we do it now while it's exposed, or come back and fix it later? It's going to be cheaper to do it now.
Exactly.
Much cheaper.
Because it is exposed, and so, but we will submit a supplemental claim and, you know, give the opportunity to
Get that
insurance to
reimbursed.
pay it or to tell us no.
And the contractor's pretty well convinced this is it?
Yes.
Okay.
On shed 14, yes.
Because you're getting pretty close to your 25%.
That's
limit.
correct.
Yes.
Hmm.
We're fully aware of that.
So if he shows up with another one like this,
So,
Maximum.
any other questions about Al or Daniel or Eddie? Or Joe? Okay, we need a motion.
Motion, Mr. Chairman.
A motion, second, and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Item number 11, adjourn into executive session.
Nothing, Mr. Chairman.
Before we do that, I'd like to,
Public comments?
Yeah, we just, item 13, public comments.
today I got my text tag out here they had a booth here at the port, and they gave us a little monito, and it's like a little dog that jiggles in the back of your window. And I gave each one of the commissioners one, and basically they gave me a little thing like this. I bought, with a credit card, I bought $20 worth of tolls, and they're good anywhere in the state of Texas in tolls. Since we're not going to have our first toll road in the, I don't like tolls any more than anybody else, but you know, there are some roads that are worth paying the toll. So if you don't have the toll tag, then you pay a higher fee, because they send you a bill by mail. This is much cheaper, and it's already prepaid. You don't have to stop, or you just go. And they send you, I mean, they give you a little tag like this, and it reads it. You put it on your windshield, and it reads it when you go through the one part of the thing. They've got a camera up there, and it either reads it or it takes a picture of your license plates and sends you a bill. So I went ahead and got mine, and I just wanted to encourage other people to get there. So, and if you come, when they come again, there'll be an announcement, you'll get a monito.
I just have one quick comment. Eddie emailed all of us and notified us that Joe and his crew had to work on Sunday fixing a major water line break. And I want to thank you and your crew for giving up your Sunday and taking care of that. And I'm not sure if you would have done it if the Dallas Cowboys had been playing, but since there's no, but no, y'all did a great job from what I was told.
Shut the water off.
And it was great. Yeah, they did a great job.
One last thing, if we can, on the 13th of May, we're going to be having a public celebration, which is our 75th anniversary. It is going to be a public, you may have already seen some of the ads running in the paper. The Brownsville Herald will be doing some stories that will be coming out leading up to that day. The celebration is not just a one-day event. While the primary celebration is going to be on the 13th, which is a Friday, from 3:30 to approximately 7:30, that will be followed with some public bus tours of the port inside the turning basin on the following Saturday, the 14th. And then on the 21st, which is the following Saturday, we're actually going to have boat tours of the turning basin. So those of you that are watching this program have interest, we would encourage you to please call in. The newspaper ads have the contact information for the bus tour and for the boat tour, because those will fill up. And certainly we would encourage everyone to join us for that 75th anniversary celebration. It'll be quite a milestone for the community and for the Port of Brownsville.
I might say that we're going to have mariachis, and we're going to have tugboats shoot water up in the air, and we're going to blow horns. We're going to have a grand time. So I hope everybody will come and help us celebrate. It's really something to celebrate. Thank you.
Okay.
Item 14, adjourn.
Have a motion to adjourn? Second. All in favor? Aye. Thank you, everybody.